second time now. Let's see if I can make this work. I think I've got the invitation sent. I'm using this platform so I can record it and use it for training purposes. So I'm grateful. So let me see. See if you got the invitation now. Yeah, I'm learning to use the various social media platforms with a little more proficiency. And so having willing people to practice on is good. All right, let's see. And I've got multiple devices that I'm trying to keep up with. Let's see. This is definitely a test run. It's telling me to hang on, but let's see. There's no way to mute my mic on here, so you just have to hear me doing voice text. Can you go to my profile and then click in from there? Let's see if you can get in from there. Someone that had agreed to participate. All right, we'll see. Let's see if this works. I'll give it a few minutes, and then if not, I'll try to get another time. Hi there. I'm trying to wait for the other participant to get in. I'm practicing. I'm not real well versed with Instagram, but I see you, Angela. I'm trying to see if the invite can get him into the room. And if not, I'll just kind of give an overview of what I will be doing as soon as I can figure out technology and sync up. I got a lot of things to be excited about. My retirement project, my passion projects, and one of the things that I said I was going to do when I retired was the things that I'm passionate about. So I packed up, sold off the farm and restaurant, all the wares, got rid of all the animals, and took a gap year. Decided I was going to spend a year resting. That's the first thing, resting, and finding some new hobbies. That was one of the agenda items for that gap year. And then figure out where I wanted to do my next chapter of life, and then what I wanted to do. I had a short list that was kind of long of passion projects that I said, or have said over the years, when I retire, this is what I'm going to do. And then other things that are meaningful, and sometimes life and work and running businesses gets in the way of actually getting it done. And like my dream, like what do you dream of? What's your daydream of life? And it has always been to have my freedom, the time. I want to own my time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just see what life is like in that space of I'm going to do the things that I want to do, the things that I'm passionate about, and I'm going to do it in the timing that feels good. For me, that looks quite wonky. Um, I'm not one that sleeps a lot, like, ever. I can remember being a teenager and like sleeping 3 or 4 hours a day. That's just been kind of my norm. And I figured out, okay, when do I need to sleep for my body to at least be able to reset and function the next day? And I had figured that out, your rhythms, I don't know if it's the circadian rhythm, mine was kind of on its own beat. But as I've really taken more control of my time, and one of that is changing the circumstances so that I could, it was, I can do things on my own time frame. And I realized that sometimes, I went through a period of time where 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was done. I was tired. I would go get in the bed. I was doing a lot of writing during that time. It was about a year ago. And like for the first time, for as long as I can remember, I slept like 8 hours. So from 3 to 8 in the evening, I'm still messaging with the person that's trying to connect. And I was just like, wait a minute. So if you just go to bed when you're tired, you'll get a good night's, like, the resetting kind of rest. And then it was like, but it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 11 o'clock at night. That's a crazy schedule. And it was like, yeah, but why am I trying to dictate that? Why am I trying to fit into a box that that doesn't fit me? And so that's kind of what happened. I've just been learning that, when you beat to your own drum, things run smoothly. Things run like, go with the flow. And it's not that you're not doing things, but being able to have that freedom to do things on my own time frame is like everything right now. So let's see. I think, are you there? How do I get you in? How do I connect you? I really don't know. So this really is a practice. Thanks for letting me guinea pig you. All right. So I see you there. I don't know how to join you into the conversation. How do I join you into the conversation? I see a plus. Okay, let's see if I can do that. Nope, that's not the right person, but sent a request to be in the live. Okay, so let's see. Hi, Richard. You have just dropped into an experiment. I'm trying to get Dwayne in, because we're going to be talking about some of the tools that I use in the healing world. So how are you this morning?
I'm sorry, could you repeat all that? Because it was on my Bluetooth, so I wasn't hearing you completely.
I said good morning. I am trying to get the other participant linked in also. This is kind of like an experiment. You are helping me figure out, and we're going to talk about some of the tools that I use in the healing retreats and some of the other work that I do about how we fix community, how we really fix society. So bear with me, because my technology game is really, really lacking sometimes. All the time. It's lacking, man. It's lacking. How are you this morning while I try to figure that out?
Hey, I'm doing well. I just got off work. I'm good. I can't complain at all. I'm calm. I'm well. And, just taking things one day at a time.
Yeah, that's how it is. Well, I'll finish giving the intro and just chime in at any time, because it really is a conversation. I was talking about kind of my own personal journey and transition, and some of my goals. I think I did it. I think I did it. I don't know, but I think I did. I need like the, you did it. If it actually happens, let's see. I sent the request.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Like little kid be like, yes, I did it.
No, that's good.
Nobody got to pat me on the back. I'm patting my own self on the back this morning, and I know
Right.
I didn't do it. Y'all click the buttons and figured out how to get here yourself. But like, ooh, I have several issues with social media. Let me just be honest. Let me be real honest. One, um, when I retired, like, you say those prayers to like the universe and whoever, God, I don't care, somebody listening. And I was serious. They're serious requests, but like people think you're joking. And I was like, the work that I do with community, like you have to be committed because helping
Mm-hmm.
people fix their stuff is not your responsibility. Like you have to volunteer for those kind of assignments in life. And I think we choose like, what's my purpose? What's the lane? I'm going to help fix community. I'm going to help re-pioneer society. But I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I retired as a farmer. So my last vocation, I was running a farm-to-table restaurant, a catering company. We had a bubble ball soccer field, a campground. I was building tiny houses. We had a drive-in movie theater. I was like doing a lot. And I was like, you know what, I'm tired. I'm glad this assignment is over, loved it, passionate about it, but I'm glad it's over. But I'm gonna do the next chapter of my life in flip-flops and a sarong. Like that's my life mission, like for real. I wanna own my time and I wanna do it in flip-flops and a sarong. So I moved to a place where the weather year-round lets me do that. So half the time, like, oh man, I'd go on and, I got a good story to tell or some lessons that I'm learning, but then I'm like, you ain't got your outside clothes on. you need to have a little more clothes on, because what I've learned about wearing a sarong is it looks like you're naked, because usually there's nothing, above here. But like you guys see me, if you didn't see nothing here, it would look like I'm naked. And I'm like, do you really want to put outside clothes on? It's like to be appropriate for social media. And I'm like, nah, I don't, And then the other issue is my hair. I have had locks for 7 years. And I meticulously took them all out back in the spring. And I'm kind of figuring out if I really want to learn how to comb my hair, because I really don't. And so hair is not my thing. So my hair is always wild looking. Like, and you can call, I have adult children, I can call them and they know. And people that know me, like, yeah, it just is what it is today, because I'm not putting outside clothes on. But like to do social media is like, yeah, you should be a little bit more tamed. You should tame it a little bit. So yeah, those are usually my two challenges for social media, and then the technology where I really don't know how to use it. So I'm fumbling. So thank you guys for letting me guinea pig you both today. So Dwayne just offered to be a guinea pig for some of the work that I'm doing so that I could share some of the tools that I teach in really as the foundation for how we fix community. And my philosophy is we fix us. And I was telling him, we had a more in-depth conversation earlier this week, and I was saying, this is one of those things that is so much easier to just take you through the experience and help you to be able to see whether there's some value. We talk about healing, and I've been in this space for over 2 decades now. People saying, oh, these are things to heal. And I was like, okay, cool. I come from a consulting background. If it's a solution, it should work, period. If you tell me that we got some healing tools, then let me try it out. First of all, have you used it? Are you using it? Is it making a difference for you? But secondly, does it work? If it doesn't work, then it's not a solution, And so for me personally, I don't want to jump into the space and damage people even more. Like my work is, how do we fix the damage? Because that's what makes us better and more capable of coming together and finding a solution. But does it work for me? And so I feel like my style of sharing is take the experience and see. And I think we had some in-depth talk, Dwayne, so maybe you can speak to kind of how just being able to kind of walk through some of these things in an informal basis, how has that helped change a perspective just from that conversation? Can you speak to that?
It opened my eyes to just, if you just take a second and process where exactly the emotion is coming from, how it can change your perspective on a lot of situations.
Yeah. And that's, we talk about, I grew up in a Christian denomination. My parents were both Christian. And, you talk about renewing of the mind, but in any of the metaphysical, spiritual circles, any of the faith traditions, they talk about, you change your value system, you change what you believe. The problem is oftentimes they drop off with, okay, how you want me to change what I believe? Like, I can just do brute force behavior modification, just, think differently, talk differently, but how do I actually change the way that I believe? How do I help myself align with living those things? And the reason that oftentimes we don't live those things is because we got issues. We interact in ways that aren't loving, and we pick up fears and guilt and insecurity, and we learn how to use, oftentimes the first line of defense is behavior. We learn how to put up those defenses. If you think about yourself, it was kind of like me talking about my sarong, looking naked, If you think about putting on clothes, it's to cover up. It's to keep somebody from seeing the truth of who you are. That's why we don't walk around outside naked. You don't want people to see the truth of who you are, or you want to determine who gets access to see the truth of who you are. And the only reason why you do that is fear and insecurity. The only reason why we put those layers on is fear and insecurity. And when we act in ways that are not loving, we usually behaviorally put layers on. We put defenses on, and then we practice those, and then we don't realize that those putting the defenses on, anything that we do that takes us away from the truth, traumatizes us. It gives us some issues, and the more we practice that behavior, the more those behaviors become our go-to. And I began realizing that if we're going to fix community, we got to fix that at the core, because everything else stems from that. And I started looking at trauma. People are talking about it now. It's a buzzword now. It wasn't 20 years ago. But part of this is, what is trauma? Where does it happen? Can we define it simply? I know there's books and books about it. I got one book that's like 500 pages talking about trauma and how we heal it. You gonna read a book that's 500 pages? Some people might eventually, but how many people are gonna sit down and say, okay, this is gonna heal me if I read this book? No, we gotta have real solutions. And I began looking for those solutions. Because if we're going to fix community and we don't have the solutions for the core, the best we can do is behavior modification. And that only works if I got some goodie and you want my goodie, you'll come do what I want you to do. Or if I put you in a chokehold and you're scared enough, you'll do what I want you to do until that pressure is gone, until the goodies run out. And then you go back to what you know. Okay, then we got to fix it in a way that's transformational. I can't force you to do it, because that's going to traumatize you. If I beat you over the head and say, do this, act this way, put you in jail, do all these things that we do in society that are behavior modification, that's just adding to the problem. The problem is we traumatize. We're living in a traumatizing world. And we ain't got no more goodies. Let's just be honest. In society, how you going to bribe folk to act right? Okay, so we need transformation. We need a way to help people change that isn't dependent on keeping that stimulus going, prodding you, bribing you to do right. I have adult children now, but you're not supposed to bribe me to do your chores. You're not supposed to bribe me to act right when we go out. How would that work? That's what we do in society, though, and we wonder why we got spoiled brats, running around society figuratively. So I began looking and found some tools and began using them, and they're working. And that's the experience I want to give you. The rest, I could talk for hours on why and how it's working and where it integrates in society, but I'd much rather take the time that you've given me. Told you I'd try to do an hour and a half and make it sweet and short, but take you through the process. And so I start the process with, let's suspend what you know about trauma and healing. Just suspend it. This is the humor me. Let me go down this rabbit path. Even if you don't believe me, let me take you on this journey, because I think I can get you somewhere. And so the first thing is suspend what you know about trauma, what they've told you, how you going to fix it. Just suspend that for a minute. Entertain me in this space for the next hour or so. And let me propose to you a new way of thinking, and you see if it begins to connect for you. But the first thing that I realized was we need to find the ground zero. If we're going to fix a problem, get to the core. If you got a burning fire and the gas is blown up and the fire is burning, all the water you can put on that is good. It stops some of the maybe spread. But if you don't ever turn the gas off, people use that analogy. If you don't turn the gas off, it's going to be real hard to put this fire out and get yourself back to safety. So where does trauma start? What does trauma look like? And I realized that trauma happens. The ground ground zero of trauma. And I'm talking big trauma and little trauma, because sometimes we forget the little trauma is where your values, the things that you believe, become conflicted. You come into a situation and something goes against the values that you hold true. That's where trauma happens. What are the examples in real life? I feel like I should be treated and spoken to with respect. You come at me and speak to me in a way that triggers me to feel like I'm being disrespected. I got trauma right there, period. My value, the value that says, I believe, my expectations are that you treat me and speak to me with respect, have been conflicted. You have done something, a behavior has happened, you've said something, your tone that makes me feel disrespected. That's where trauma happens. Oh, but Lorana, that's just a little thing. Doesn't matter. Big, small, it's like a cumulative effect. We talk, especially in African American circles, Black people, we talk about microaggressions when we talk about things like racism. We talk about experiencing these little bitty things. You go to a job and you are treated in ways that you feel are racist, little bit, little bit, little bit. Those are microaggressions, but they're cumulative. They add up. Let that happen for all day. Let it happen for a week. Let it happen for months, and that job becomes intolerable. The trauma keeps happening. And so the first thing about defining it is trauma happens. Trauma happens anytime that conflict happens. And then there's some other foundational values I want you to consider for this time. And you can let these go when we get done, but just for this time to be able to evaluate that trauma happens, that healing it is our best option for getting to the core and fixing it at the core, and that we should explore solutions, whether they be theoretical solutions or solutions that we're trying to put into practice. If they have a promise for healing that core, we should explore there. And like, that's the basis for where I want you to kind of think as we go into okay, how do we undo it? How do we fix the damage? How do we unweave those points of impact? The first part is really start where we are, but can we go through an unpacking process to be able to fix it? That's the result. So if we fix the damage, then we're no longer triggered by those things, and we're no longer triggered to act in ways that are unloving with each other. And so the first part of what we do is I want you to, if you can think of an incident, I want you to think of an incident in the past couple of days, couple of weeks, something relatively recent, so there's still some emotional stuff to it, or remembrance of a time that you just strong emotions, angry, frustrated, something that's a strong emotion. I want you to see if you have an incident, and if you have an incident that, like, something that the one that immediately pops in your mind, if you could title that incident in 6 words or less, like, what would you call that moment of your life where this incident happened? How would you give it a name? 6 words or less. So make it something that really hones in on this experience, that if I were to mention these 6 words, this title, this description, a week from now, you'd say, I know exactly what incident that is. So how would you put a name on it?
Let me think of that. 6 words?
6 words or less. What would you call that incident? How would you describe that incident?
Unnecessary overreactions.
Unnecessary over. Now we want to take one incident. Is that a one incident?
Yeah.
Okay. Unnecessary overreaction. Okay. Can you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in this incident, that's your moment. That's what we're going to call this moment. That's what this story, this healing circle that we're going to go in. And if you had to describe this, back in the days, one of the little detective shows or whatever, Facts, Just the Facts. I don't know if it was Dragnet or something like that, 60s, 70s kind of reruns. If you were to explain or describe this incident as if you had a camera or you were a news reporter and you were documenting what actually happened, just the facts, can you tell that story with just the facts?
I mean, I could try.
All right. let's give it a try. Now, what I'm going to do is, and this is what happens sometimes when I'm working with coaching clients, at the first couple of times, because sometimes we don't just tell facts, I'm going to stop you. I'll pause you anytime you go off of that set of instructions, okay?
I got you.
All right, so tell me about this moment. Tell me the story of it with just the facts. And if you're talking about if someone else was interacting with you, don't use any names. Simply use pronouns, you, because we want to deal with one relationship interaction at a time. So one of the persons that was the party, I want you to give me the story as if it's just the two of you in that interaction, or that you're centering on the two of you in the interaction. And so you just call them you. And so you're going to tell this story as if you're talking to this person. You did this, I did this, this is what happened. Tell me the story in the facts.
Okay, I got you. So you text me at a time.
Nope, just fact. You text me. You text me if you tell me the time, but not at a time where you start giving me an explanation. Only tell me the facts of it. You text me.
Yeah, you text me at a particular time. I wasn't available. This irritated you.
Nope. You're reading somebody else's mind. Tell me the facts. What actually happened?
Well, I mean, I was sent a message of how they felt. You expressed how you felt about me not being available.
That's a fact. That actually is something that happened. You sent me a message, and in that message, you explained how you felt about me not being available.
Right.
Okay. Give me the rest of the facts.
I had an adequate reaction to your.
Nope, that's an analysis. Tell me the facts. What did you actually do? What actually happened?
I responded to the way you felt about me not being available.
That's a fact. What else happened? What are the other facts of this incident?
Your response escalated the situation.
Nope, that's an analysis. What actually happened?
Okay, you said the response back. That's
what actually happened. And then what happened?
And I sent the response back.
And then
to that response.
What happened? And then what happened?
It didn't end very well. I mean, like the conversation didn't end well.
No. That's analysis. You see, because the first step is we have to first identify what happened, what actually happened. Now, if we weren't in a public space, if this was a private space, part of your facts would be you responded with a text that said this, and this. And then because those would also be facts. But for this purpose, we won't go that deep.
Right.
Okay?
Right. That's what I'm trying. Right.
But tell me facts. And then I responded, what were the facts? What else actually happened? Because you saying it didn't end well isn't a fact. That's an analysis. I've looked at the situation and I've determined that it didn't end well. No, what actually happened?
We went back and forth continuously until we stopped talking.
So we messaged back and forth, and at some point I stopped responding to the messages. What happened?
I at some point I decided I no longer wanted to participate in the conversation.
The decision is an analysis. Nope. The decision. What did you do at a certain point after so many changes?
I asked out of the conversation.
You did what?
I asked to end the conversation.
I sent a message that said.
I sent the message asking to end the conversation.
Okay. Then what happened?
It didn't really end the conversation, but it ended the conversation.
All right. Is that the end of the scenario?
Yeah,
that incident? That moment?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. The rest of the process of doing facts is also now and I felt. What did you feel? Because oftentimes we dismiss our feelings. Our feelings are facts. You felt some kinds of way during that experience and after. Now, they may not be true.
Right.
You may feel disrespected and I didn't disrespect you. Your feelings are facts. If you felt that way, that's a fact. Now, whether you were actually disrespected, that's something different. So this is about facts. What are the facts? So now that you've looked at the incident, the details of what happened, let's also include the facts of your emotional state, the emotions that you experienced. So if you were to say, I felt, now this is no explanation, because you're learning how to disconnect some things so you can process them in better ways. So in addition to your facts, what else are your facts as far as what you felt? I felt, or I feel, because you may still feel some emotions about that. I felt, and then give me those words that would be part of that list of facts for this incident.
I felt dismissed. I felt, I guess I would say I felt attacked.
Fact, okay.
Or accused.
And
I'll say it better that way. I felt accused,
it could
unnecessarily
be both.
accused.
I felt attacked and
And
accused.
accused.
What
Yeah.
else? What else?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I felt
And so
I felt the need to shut the conversation down to protect
no,
my
what does that feel?
personal space.
You trying to give me an explanation? Nope. Tell me what you felt. Process that. You were wanting to shut this conversation down. What were you feeling?
I wouldn't say anxious, but like just
Why wouldn't you say anxious?
because it wasn't like anxiety or anything like that. It was
What
just
was it?
a need to be done. It
What's
wasn't
that feeling?
healthy for me anymore.
What's that
It got to a point to where I
feeling?
felt I don't know what the feeling would be unhealthy.
Unhealthy.
I guess
felt
safe. It didn't feel like a safe conversation anymore.
unsafe. Unsafe.
Yeah.
You felt unsafe?
Yeah.
Okay,
Emotionally.
because saying it wasn't a safe, it didn't feel like a safe environment. That's an analysis that you can do from the outside. Did you feel unsafe? I felt unsafe.
Yeah. Emotionally, I felt unsafe.
This is about you making it personal.
Right.
You doing an analysis. We'll get to that later. But this is the process gives a structured framework that helps you undo the damage of the trauma, the stuff that we didn't process, the unprocessed stuff that happens. So as we look at facts, the first step is what actually happened. Suspend the need to do the analysis. It wasn't really anxiety. What was it? Did you feel anxiety? Yeah, anxiety comes to mind. It felt kind of like that. And part of this is about also seeing sometimes you don't have the vocabulary yet to be able to explain what you're feeling. That it felt kind of like you know, I was feeling like can you feel that? Can you feel? But sometimes we don't have the words. When the people talk about emotional intelligence, what they're meaning is, can you take that feeling and communicate it with somebody outside of your brain? Because if you can't, then what that does is, if I'm interacting with you, I got to try to read your mind. I got to guess and see. I don't know. If you don't know, how am I from the outside going to do that? And so emotional intelligence is about you being able to communicate what you're feeling with people on the outside of your brain. And so in this step, as we begin we began to see, wait a minute, just getting to the facts is hard work because I got a whole bunch of other stuff twisted in with that. The why, the justification, what I'm thinking about, how I'm trying to get out of this situation. I'm planning, I'm making a plan for getting myself to a safe place emotionally. And a lot of times we find that in society, we don't have the tools, the framework to be able to know how to unweave, unpack, and compartmentalize these pieces, because that's what we're talking about right now. But the first part of this this process is something happens. Usually your body triggers you first when you're connected and you're paying attention to those things, because I think those senses can be dulled or sharpened. But usually if you're in a situation, you start feeling tense. Maybe for you it's your shoulders or your neck. Maybe you just all of a sudden kind of get that vibe. That oftentimes is our body's way of, in a split second, faster than any computer, to let us know, ooh, something is out of alignment with my values. It ain't lining up. And I feel it before I can think about it. I feel some kind of way. You hear people say that? Now, if you can't take that and then put words to that way that you feel, that's kind of a very low emotional intelligence. Being able to communicate that, I feel some kind of way, that's a good start. Because that means something has set your system on edge. It's kind of like your hair is being raised on the back of your neck. I don't hear people say that as much anymore, but the energy of the situation, I think that's some of the vocabulary, the energy starts to feel a little bit different. Oftentimes we ignore it because we're logical people. Our brain starts functioning and we dismiss that. But as we begin to find more holistic ways to heal, and that's what I'm talking about, do we have solutions that help us to do a better job of healing? Our body is the first response. This is the mind, body, and soul is all working together. I feel some kind of way. Ooh, what am I feeling? Wait a minute, I'm feeling a little anxious. I'm feeling a little bit unsafe in this. This conversation is not feeling like love to me. As we begin to put words to it, it's then stopping. It's taking time to actually say to yourself, how am I feeling? If I'm being totally honest. Because healing only works if you're willing to be honest with yourself. For somebody that's not willing to be honest, why waste time? You can't get to the core if you're not willing to be honest. But it's stopping and saying, first, let me process what happened. Yep, this person actually said that in this message. Now, I can't read tone, but I have a pretty good understanding of what this message meant. And I know the messages I sent back. The ones I thought and the ones I actually put in text and sent back. That's what happened. And this discourse, this moment in my life, these are the emotions that got tangled up in this process. And stop. Don't matter why it happened. We don't even want to think there yet. It's let me honor the fact that my feelings have just said we ain't okay. Is it a big thing? Depends on how big this was in your life on that day. But if we learn to do it for big and small, we practice this behavior because we're trying to create a behavior that's first nature. We're trying to recreate a thinking pattern that actually helps us get healed and keeps us from being traumatized by all the stuff that happens in the world. But this goes back to values, because part of this is an approach that says, based on a value system that says, I'm responsible for my behavior. I am in control of my actions and my behavior. I get to pick if I respond. I get to pick the things that I do. And it's also a value that says, I don't want nobody to control me being able to behave in the way that I want to. And in return, I don't have a right to control anybody else's behavior. That's a value system that says healing is only about me. Now, does it have some implications to you? It might help you too, because if I get healed and don't go off on you and tell you what I really think about you, your mama, your kinfolk, and everything else that I'm just going to swirl into this mess, if I stop doing that stuff, you become better. Not that you're on a healing journey yourself, but I begin to be a person that doesn't cause so much harm in my interactions, and that has a cumulative benefit for someone else. So me healing helps me not be so damaging when I go out and interact with other people. And so as a result, we help others be better. Because it's like you hear doctors do no harm. The worst case scenario is be neutral. If you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing, you know. If I say something, it could damage you. So let me just not say nothing if I can't do something that's productive. But the best case scenario is your interaction with others help them have healing experiences, sometimes just with you. When they interact with you, they don't interact in ways that feel healing and are loving. So that's the first step. Step one, something's happening. My emotions get triggered. I know that my emotions are trying to tell me that something is out of alignment, but let me first find out what happened. Okay, these interactions happened, and you've given yourself some time. I'm not angry now. I'm ready to, My anger has subsided enough, or my frustration has subsided enough, and you had different vocabulary words for your experience, but that has subsided enough for me to go on to the next step of processing. And the next step before we move to the next step of processing is we bring this back into community. For someone who's doing this with a healing partner, with a coach, with someone just in their life that understands the process, the next part of it is, and this would be we do this in writing, would be to stop and read this, to go through, to hear yourself say these words out loud. This is what happened. And when this happened, these are the emotions that I felt. And you would share that in this shared setting, because what that would do is, if I am your healing partner, if I am your coach, if I'm just your person in life and we're going through this because we're trying to resolve conflict, I would listen to the emotions that you said. I would listen to this scenario, not because I need to feel what you feel, but because as community, being able to identify with the hurt of another helps me to be able to go within and find out if there's areas in my life too that this triggers for me that need healing. And so as you would read that narrative, the narrative of what happened, including your emotions, the response that I would give you would be, I can identify with this situation. And this is stuff that would be happening mentally, because in this space, I would not center my stuff on the time that you're taking to heal. And so all that you would heal would be the emotions. And so hearing that, I would say, I felt frustrated, I felt angry, I felt disgusted, I felt unsafe, I felt unheard, I felt misunderstood. Now, those are my feelings that I can identify with. Those feelings may have nothing to do with your situation. Identification is about me saying, I hear your situation, and let me go into my life. I've been in situations like that. You start firing off the messages back and forth, email or text messages. You know what it feels like. Lorana, do you have anything in your life that helps you to find a point of connection with this person and their experience? Now, take your situation. Take the situation that brings up to your mind. You feel them. I feel those emotions. Yeah. What comes up for you from your life? Frustration. Discuss. Why you wasting my time with this foolishness? And you going, I told you I ain't got nothing else to say. And 5 messages later, you still messaging me with some foolishness. That's what's happening in my mind.
For real, bro. Like, for real, bro. For real.
Because
Like, for real.
this is your time to center. Because this is your time to center your healing. What I would respond with in this time, even though this stuff is going on in my mind, I would respond with, thank you for sharing. And the emotions that I feel in identification are anger, frustration, disgust, misunderstanding, disrespect, exasperation. Those are the feelings that I feel. And your response, because you know this ain't got nothing to do with you, your response would be, thank you. You have heard, you have processed that, and so practice that. That's how I feel. I have felt these emotions, and your response to me would be what? Thank you.
You have heard.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. That's it. Thank you. Do I have the right to feel however I feel in response to hearing that and identifying with that in my life? Do I have that right?
For sure you do.
Are those my facts of my existence right now?
For sure.
Is there anything you can add to or take away from that?
Nothing.
And so the response is thank you. Thank you for giving me your listening ear. Thank you for sharing with me and identify. Thank you for connecting your life with my life right now. Thank you. 2 words. There's an important piece of that and on the backside. And in the weeks, we'll talk a little bit more about that on the backside. But understanding that how I feel has nothing to do with you. If you can learn to not take it personal, none of those emotions got to do with you. Now, as we circle back around, though, as you've heard me identify with some of the emotions that my situation elicited for me, because then that lets me know, maybe have you really finished processing that stuff? Maybe I have, maybe I not. But if this is your time for healing, that ain't your business either. It's not your business or your responsibility. Because if you entertain that, you get off focus from doing your own work. This is about community and connecting and being able to see the identification in others. You aren't alone in your trauma. These are things that we all have, and if we learn how to communicate them, we can support each other. By me saying, I don't understand your situation, but I can identify being in a situation in my life that sounds very similar in emotion or in interactions, and here's the emotions that brought up for me. We circle back around to you and say, are there any other emotions that you can now identify for your situation? Any other emotions that you might have experienced and didn't quite have words yet to say?
I'm definitely frustrated, unheard, probably disappointed. Yeah, those would be the new words I would come with.
Thank you. And so as you can see, and that would then be the end of that step one process. Give that some space. Go process the realization, because for some people, I didn't even stop to realize what I was feeling. I was just mad at the moment. Yeah, but you didn't understand. You also felt unheard. You also felt frustrated. You also felt, and whatever that list that's elicited. And this would be written. We do this in writing for a whole lot of reasons that I won't even go into, but part of it is so that you have this and you can add to that. And part of it is taking the time to be able to say, let me process. Why would I rush through this process? This is like, I come from a farming background. If you leave some of them roots, from them weeds in, what happens? Do you know about the science
Come
of
back.
farming?
They're gonna come
It'll
back.
come back. Your healing works the same way. You can go as deep as you want to. For some people, they can only do surface. I was just angry. Okay, fine. But as you begin to continue and commit to doing this work, it'll be 2 days from now, and you'd be like, yeah, I was angry, but wait a minute. I was like indignant. I felt like insulted. Insulted. That's what I was feeling. And as you begin to do this, and what we do is we do this and we start you with a couple hundred words of emotions. Because a lot of times we only got about 10 basic emotions that we use. And so it's once we do step one, we stop and give you time and space to process that. Don't rush yourself. If you got to go and feel that anger all over again, do it. Now, we put some safe boundaries there for you. Do you need to put some behavior modification in place for yourself while you're processing this? Because you're still going to be triggered until you deal with it. And that would be things like, I'm going to make a commitment not to do no physical harm to nobody over this situation. That's what I'm going to make a commitment to myself to do. Behavior modification. Self, I don't care how you feel, self, is this worth us catching a charge over self? Okay. So you're going to feel like it until you finish processing it. You're going to want to take justice out yourself for the wrong that you now are recognizing that you have felt in this situation. But we don't usually in this process deal with the symptoms. Just keep doing what you're doing, because our goal is not to put energy into the symptoms, fighting the fire. Our goal is to turn the gas off. Our goal is to get there to the core of it. Let's fix it. And if we're spending energy fighting fires, we're not getting to the core. And so this process doesn't deal a whole lot with behaviors unless it's behaviors that's life-threatening or a detriment to yourself. Things like hardcore drugs would be a detriment to yourself. And if you're using those as drugs of choice, then part of this process says we gotta those things that are detrimental that we can use behavior modification for. Let's try to do that. Give ourselves some headspace where we're not adding to the trauma. But I'm of the believer that drugs of choice are drugs of choice. And sometimes people use substances as their drugs of choice, but more often than not, we use behavior. Same impact. It damages. We do things that are detrimental to our well-being. Sometimes they're detrimental to our emotional well-being, sometimes our physical well-being, sometimes both. I don't make a judgment call. Drugs of choice are drugs of choice if we really want to heal trauma. And so that first space is just to stop. Maybe you got more facts that you go back and add to that. I tell people, take a week, process this, go back and reread this. As you think, are there any other details? Yes, this happened yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or this happened yesterday at 3 a.m. in the morning while I was at work, not on my break, or this happened at 11 o'clock at night and I was asleep when the phone rang and I woke up and this was the message that was the response. You may have other details to add into that, but it's a personal choice. And I tell people, how deep do you want to go? How many of those roots do you want to leave in of this weed that has caused a disruption in your life? It's up to you. There's no judgment. Sometimes people got to get a little bit of layer off the top to be able to get any deeper. Each one of us is at a different place in our journey. And so this step is about how do I unweave at the core of the damage? Step one, what are the facts? We include the emotions because if you felt it, it's for real. It's fact. There's nothing anyone can dispute. Now, when you're using this in your own healing journey, that's true. But if you're using this in dealing with conflict with someone else, it's still true. Because step one says, can we agree on the facts? Now, the facts may not be in alignment. If I'm on this side of the house and you're on this side of the house, what you see may be different than what I see. But if you explain that I am on the north side of the house, and when I look at the house, there are two windows on the house. Ain't but one window on the side of the house. Sweetie, you on the other side of the building. Can we agree on the facts? Yes. I'm on this side of the house, and from my vantage point, I see two windows. You were on the other side of the house, and from your vantage point, you only saw one window and a door. Are those both facts?
Mm-hmm.
They can both be facts at the same time, even if they're not the same experience. And so if we're dealing with conflict, the first step would be us making sure we understand the facts. This is what happened from my perspective. This is what happened from yours. But if they're facts, they should always align. Just like us seeing from a different perspective, we still could see how that could align. I'm on one side giving you my vantage, you're on the other side. Both of those can be facts at the same time, even though what both of us saw was different. And then at that time, when we're using this in conflict, it's also finishing up the facts. How did you feel? I felt disgusted because the window was blown out and it looked like there was a hole in the window. And so I felt disgusted. I felt panicked. I felt afraid. I felt you on the other side. How did you feel? I felt indifferent. I didn't feel nothing. I didn't see no damage. You know, that's what be happening in your mind. What did you feel? Indifferent. You over there hollering, and I'm saying ain't no problem. And you're hollering because there's a hole in the window and you don't see no hole in the window. And so you're indifferent. You're not alarmed at all. What did you feel? I felt nothing. I called you. I felt ignored. She over there just hollering. I don't know what she hollering for. Ain't nothing wrong with these windows. And so part of this would be if you were dealing with this in the place of conflict, we've understood the facts, but with no judgment, we've each been able to express our emotions. I didn't know she was feeling frustrated and unheard. Now I do. I didn't have all of the facts of this situation. Now I have a broader base of the facts. Okay, you're angry with me. I get it. Are we ready to finish processing this? Because sometimes you have to stop there. Nope, too angry right now to talk to you about this. Can we come back when we both can go further in the processing? And so that becomes the first step. And usually that's what doesn't happen when we're in a traumatizing situation. We start processing. We start trying to figure out how to get ourselves to safety right now. Whatever that safety means, whatever has been triggered. Maybe it's my insecurities have been triggered. I'm trying to get myself back on even keel. Whatever it is, oftentimes we don't finish processing it. So that's the first step. And then the second step that we'll talk about today, once we've let those emotions get to a place where we're now ready to now do the next steps, we now start looking at the problem. This is where we start getting into the structured analysis of the problem. What values were conflicted? We already know, according to this line of thinking, where trauma starts. Something conflicted with my values. And values sometimes are called expectations, beliefs. Something didn't align with my beliefs. That's when trauma happens. So now I'm taking this situation. My emotions have thrown a red flag in my life. Something might be potentially traumatizing in my life. Emotions are the red flags if we use them appropriately. There's no judgment that I make on emotions. We're humans. We have the opportunity to experience any of the emotions that we want to. That's my belief system. We're talking about how to actually do the healing work. Notorious. That looks like that might be Bruce. I can't see the little icon. It's real small. But we're talking about healing. People talk about healing, but how? And so some of the tools that I use in the work that I do is about the how. So we're talking about that. First step was facts. Just facts. No analysis, no judgment, just facts. But now we're moving into, let me process this. My emotions have thrown a flag on the play. Let me go and review this play to see if there is trauma. Now, some things in life just make us feel bad, make us feel sad, but there's no trauma. Trauma happens only when we have our values conflicted. So now let's go and analyze. For me, this brings up from real life football. Flag is thrown on the play, but they got to go check and see, was there a violation? Is that accurate? Sometimes men don't like women to talk about sports because they think they don't understand. I understand a little bit. I'm not an expert, but is that accurate with that? Are you a football person? What's your game?
That's accurate.
Flag has been thrown. Emotions have thrown a flag on the playing field of my life, because this is my playing field. This is my playground. This is my vortex. This is my universe, my life. The next step of the process, once we've collected the facts, how many, as deep as you want to go, how much you want to get of this trauma, potential trauma out of your life. The next step is, let's go and analyze this play. Now we have the facts. Let's see what the values are behind these. What are the expectations? Oh, wait, right off the bat, you expected to have access to my time at your beck and call. That sound pretty accurate in your situation?
Yeah,
so this is a value that says, if we narrow that down, the value of that behavior. Now, when it's someone else, it's speculative. When it's you, you understand. From your vantage point, what would your value be? Is someone else entitled to your time and access? What's your value about that?
No, they're not.
Nope. Put words to it. What is your value or your expectation? If you were going to tell me what I should be able to expect in my interaction with you about access to your time, what would you tell me your value is?
Oh, well, I mean, I would be available to you as much as possible or as much as life allows. That's basically how I say it. My availability to you for this person, the person I'm talking about for this particular incident, would be as much as possible as long as life allows. So
you hear? That's a nice idea, but in this process, what we do in this step is we work on honing and being very, very specific about what your values and expectations are. Let me try these on just for training purposes. Let me try this set of values on for you and see if this might not sound more honest. I own my time. There's bullet points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You put the numbers. Bullet point. I own my time. Value. Bullet point number 2. I choose who has access to my time. Bullet point number 3. I can choose not to give someone access at my time. Bullet point number 4, I owe no one an explanation for how I choose to divide or give out my time. Number 5, others can't dictate how I calendar the time and energy in my life. Is that about 5 or 6 bullet points?
Yes.
Would those be clear values or expectations that you agree with?
For sure.
For this situation, okay, let me think about what else I heard in this situation. I can choose which conversations I participate in.
Yes.
I can choose how much I choose to participate in. I can change my mind of my participation level at any time because I own all of my time.
Yes, yes, and yes, 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 for sure. All of them was being
Are there
right.
any other values that you hold in this situation? I expect people to communicate their thoughts and feelings with me. I am not I will not take on the responsibility of reading other people's minds. I will not take on the responsibility for controlling other people's behavior. Would those also be values that might fit
Yeah,
into this
yeah.
scenario?
Another value would be I am not responsible for how you feel about what I say or do.
I am not responsible how you feel. There's probably one more that goes with that. You can feel however you choose to feel. You
Choose
can
to
choose
feel.
to
Right.
feel whatever emotions you choose to feel.
I have every right to that.
If we were writing this, and this is why we do this in a written process, that's about 13 or 14 values.
Right.
Do you hold those values true? Is that true for you? Is that your truth?
Yes. They're all true.
Are there any other values that you see? Yes. You were interacting with someone else. There was also the value that says, I ought to be able to have access to you when I want to. Was that value displayed in this interaction?
Yes.
I should control when and how you respond to me. Is that
Yeah.
a value that you start to play? Any
Yeah.
Exactly, Notorious. A lot of people don't understand that, and that's why this process teaches it. It gives you a framework, because let me take a rabbit trail here. Trauma works just like addiction. Trauma is the addiction. All the behavioral things we do are the drugs of choice. If I begin to feel fearful, what's my behavior? I fight you. I cuss you out. I look sideways at you. If I
Yes.
begin to feel stressed, what do? Pop a pill, take a drink, calm my nerves. Smoke a cigarette, calm my nerves. What am I really doing? I felt anxious. I felt frustrated, exasperated, and what I did was I went for a drug of choice to bring me back to my homeostasis, my balance, my survival balance. I'm trying to get back in control of my life. I need to push this feeling away. I need to put this feeling in the attic of my mind, and so I find a drug of choice. I cuss you out. Now I feel better. Yep.
What's some people there?
So trauma is the addiction. All of this other stuff is our drugs of choice. We choose it. If we're being honest, the emotions just happen. You don't decide that you're going, you can feel angry, but part of it is we think that we then have ownership to then respond. Well, it depends on how you want to live your life. If you would like for your emotions to drive the bus of your life, go for it. And we see how that's working in society. If you understand that I am in charge of my emotions, because we just said that in our value, I'm responsible for choosing how I feel. I can feel angry from now until if I want to. Ever seen somebody, they mad about something that happened 40 years ago? I had a mother, my mother was divorced when I was about 4 years old till my daddy died and beyond. You mentioned Charles Hughes around my mama, and my mama act like something had just happened to her. She would get indignant. You can choose to be angry however long you want to. Now, if you want to heal, you get to choose. Do you want to spend your energy in your life being angry about somebody that you really... So somebody that you know is doing things that are counterproductive to your life, and you want to hold on to that anger and put that energy into them? Really, how much energy do you want to put in this person? There's no right or wrong. Just decide. I'm done being angry with this. Let me process this so I ain't got to be angry no more. That also can be a choice. So as we see, what other values maybe on the opposite side? You should be responsible for my emotions and curtail your behaviors to make sure that my emotions aren't triggered in a negative way. Yeah. Would that be a value or expectation?
It's like that one is the biggest one that annoys me.
Words to it. Bullet point. So if we were writing this, we now got a list of about 15, 16 values or expectations or beliefs. Some of them you agree with and some of them you don't.
Right.
And then we look at this process and say, the first thing we have to do is identify the values. And then we look at, and I'm going in my notes because I don't want to miss nothing and shortchange you, you know. And we then, once we've got them listed, which ones do I agree with? We talked about the ones we agreed with on the front side. We kind of separated in our conversation the ones we didn't agree with. Which values were conflicted? Which of the values that you hold to be true or not true were conflicted. Those ones that you already know you don't agree with, I ain't responsible
Yeah,
for how you feel.
the three,
Conflict.
the three, for sure the three that I don't agree with were all triggered in that one, all in that
What else
experience.
though? 'Cause all of those values that you agree with, did someone think that they owned your
Yeah,
time? Did
yeah,
someone think they could schedule your time? This
pretty much
entire list.
everything on both sides of the list was hit. If I would say,
Do you realize that every one of those values on your list, the ones you agree with and disagree with, every one of those was a conflict point for you? I
yes,
believe this, but you didn't align with my beliefs in your behavior. Your behavior acted like you owned my time. Your behavior acted like you got to schedule my time. Your behavior acted like you got to tell me how to use my time and to give it to you in this
yeah,
way that I find is every one of those is a conflict to your spirit.
yes, they all were.
Where does trauma happen? It only happens at one point. Where something conflicts with my values.
Got you.
If
Well, then, yeah,
this were a pew, how many hits did you take in this? How many of your values were conflicted?
I took about 18 to 20 hits in that conversation, just in that
And
one.
then, uh-huh, so you go through, and in this process, you would say, these are the values and expectations that swirled in this situation, and every one of them was conflicted.
Yeah.
Some of those opposing values are literally the explanation of the confliction.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you own my time. You believe you own my time. Do we see a problem there? Do we see a misalignment? Are we out of flow and sync with you? Insert your appropriate vocabulary from your faith and spiritual training. Insert right there.
I ask you a question. How do you verbalize that to a person? Because, like, I'm a very blunt person, right?
You
So, how do you,
practice, because this right now, has this event already happened?
yeah,
Past tense, isn't it?
yeah.
Can you go undo that event? Can you go undo it?
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to learn from in further events, like in the
That's
future.
that's a whole part of this training, because what happens is right now you're learning and you're learning to do this in the past. Can't fix the past. But
Right.
if you learn this framework, this is one of those tools that progressively gets better.
Got
The
you.
tool gets better because as you learn this and as you practice it, it becomes your first nature. So immediately you're in a situation now, and this is 2-3 weeks down the road, a month down the road. Wait a minute, I feel some kind of way. And I know if I'm feeling some kind of way, this is the potential for this to have triggered something that's unhealed or something that's in conflict, which means this could potentially damage me. Before I go too far, let me stop. Self, what just happened? She said, you gonna talk to me right now. And my mind felt annoyed in that minute, got ready to get a little hot. And as this is happening, I'm saying to myself, you done just triggered something. And I know if you have triggered an area, it's an area that's probably unhealed. And if I act on this unhealed behavior, I let my ego take over, I'm going to act as a person who's now reaching for their drug of choice. What's my drug of choice going to be? I'm just argue with you. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to I'm going to put all these behaviors in place. But as you learn, you understand that anytime you do anything that conflicts with your values, you will be traumatizing yourself. You're the perpetrator of your own abuse at that point. If I
Right.
know talking and treating somebody with respect is what I believe in, for me, and I do it to you, guess what? I've damaged you. Yeah, I got to lick in on you. But wait a minute, I just damaged myself. Fool. Wait a minute. So somebody made you mad, so you damaged yourself because somebody made you mad. You have just, and as you begin to grow in your capacity, because sometimes we got to get some layers off before we gain the capacity to stop ourselves. Trauma is the addiction. We just reach for it. We don't even think until afterwards. The growth is, I start doing this in real time. I'm feeling some kind of way. Pause. What am I feeling? Before you send a response, what you feeling? I don't own. You don't own my time. So you already off. We off alignment. But how I respond determines how much more damage I get. So My values are conflicted. Micro trauma just happened right there. Nothing you can do about it. It's already done. How much more trauma am I going to add on to this? Okay, self. If we respond in a way that violates us, and my first job is to take care of who? Who am I absolutely responsible for taking care of? Me. That's my job. So now,
the self is first.
If that's true, how I respond is going to decide how well I'm doing at that job. If I respond in a way that's going to add more trauma to my life, I fail in that moment on my job, my first job. So now self, how am I going to respond? I better respond in a way that matches with my values, because if I respond in a way that does not match with my values, I will create trauma for myself right now. I can't say nothing nice to them. How about I just don't respond? But that sure feels bad. I don't care. Feeling bad is not going to traumatize me. Conflicting with my values is going to traumatize me. I'll get over the feel bad. I don't want to add trauma to my life. So even though you want me to respond and you think that I should, I'm okay with you thinking that. However, my truth is, who owns my time? Me? Do I want to give this person my time? If I'm being totally honest, nope, I don't want to talk to him right now. Is my behavior going to align with my values? Because that's the real test. Can you live it? I don't want to talk to this person. If I'm being totally honest, I don't want to talk to them. Then don't talk to them. But I feel guilty. Okay, but you know that feeling fear, guilt, and insecurity is a product of your trauma. Oh, I'm feeling guilty for doing what I believe because I'm damaged there. Why do I feel guilty about telling people no? Why do I feel guilty about owning my time? I believe it. Let me go figure out why I feel guilty. Let me go do the healing work, because this has shown me an area of my damage. Wait a minute. If I'm doing this in real time, this person has just helped me. They've shown me that I got some damage. I got some insecurities right here. But I know, because I'm using this framework, my values are I own my time. And if I'm being honest, because if I lie to myself, I'm traumatizing myself. I'm lying to myself. I'm traumatizing myself. If I lie to myself, okay, so don't lie to yourself. If I'm being honest, I don't want to talk to you right now. But, ain't gonna be. You have the right to be mad. You have the right to feel however you want to. I can identify with feeling a little frustrated when I want something and I don't get what I want. I feel you. I feel you. I can identify with that. However, I don't want to create more trauma in my life. This is already creating a little trauma in my life. I'm feeling a little irritated and agitated. My spirit is unsettled right now. And so I'm going to do what keeps me from adding more trauma to this situation. That just seems logical to me. And I'm using this framework because I know if I go to my ego, I'm not going to be logical. I'm going to be high on my drug of choice. And so my logical answer, because I have this framework to think it through now. When I know I'm being triggered, I can pull this framework out, because this is what's going to help me heal. If I follow my emotion, I know it's going to create trauma, because whenever you pull your drug of choice in, it's worse. It makes it worse. We think we're making it better. I feel it's making it worse. It's delaying it. It's making it bigger. It's, causing a whole bunch of other problems, because however you're dealing with that may be some other residual trauma that you create. And so part of this is, as you begin to use it in real time, not only are you learning to process it, but this process teaches you the words. Simply being honest. If I'm being totally honest, your message to me triggered me. And as a result of that, I don't think I want to give that energy right now, because if I respond to you now, it's going to be my ego responding. And so the most loving thing I can do to myself is to not say nothing that's going to traumatize me. And probably what's good for you too is you not interacting with me now, because if I go there, I'm going there in my ego. So let me process this, and we'll get back and have this conversation as I feel emotionally able to. You begin to develop the words to speak your truth. People talk about speak your truth. What does that mean? You ain't got the words to speak your truth. What you talking about? This is teaching you to have the word. Did you hear step one in that process? What just happened? You sent me a message that said this, and this, and demanded that I respond to you in the next 5 minutes. And I got triggered. And I know, self. If we got triggered and we let our ego run us right now, our ego is always going to destroy us. or at least potentially. So I need to do what's in my best interest. And my best interest says I got to first be honest about what happened and what I'm feeling. Your message made me feel this kind of way. When I read the message, because your message didn't do it. When I read the message, I processed the stuff into my head, and this is how that message made me feel. It's taking control from someone else. If they're not in charge of what you feel, you got to own up to your feelings. And being able to do it with no guilt and no need for apology is sometimes the healing journey. Okay, self, what are we feeling? What values were conflicting? We're doing it now in hindsight because we want to make sure that we get that weed out. We know a seed has been planted. We see the conflict. That's a seed of trauma right there, right there.
Right.
It's starting to put roots down. How long you didn't wait to process this? Those roots are growing fast, especially if you.
I had already started processing it. I just, like you said, I don't like the emotional words. I don't have probably at this present moment. I wouldn't say I had the word list to be able to list off all the emotions or exactly what they are. But over time, as we do this more, I will be able to break down situations with a lot more words that would have definitely been in there and a lot more values that I felt were triggered. But I just, like I said, I just wanted to get like you said, it's the start of it. It's like from just the one conversation we had, it already got me into how to process what was going on. It slowed me down in the conversation. My responses weren't responses that I normally would have. They were more like, I get what you're saying, woo woo, like, but you know what I mean, like breaking it, just kind of like breaking down this what, like I was analyzing. And then now I understand what analyzing in the conversation is too, and not sticking to the facts. So now I'll be able to now try to break down in the conversation what the facts of what the person said was, so I can come back to them with what I have to say in just the facts, not how I feel about what they said, but what the facts was of what they said and how the facts and what they said did or didn't align with me and how that made me feel. Like, so these type of things, like it's I see how these tools, if you use it repetitively, it's gonna change everything in your life because you're gonna know you're triggered. You might not know at that moment why you're triggered, but you'll be able to process that you are triggered, analyze that in that moment, slow yourself down. Even because if it's a talking back and forth, you can, if nothing else, get the person to, hey, give me a second, the finger, like, I need to, hey, give me a minute. Like, hold on. And if I say something right this second, if I just immediately respond to you, you're not going to like what I have to say. So, you
Because
know what I mean? And
do you own the responsibility? If I say something, this is the value system that we help people develop, this internal value system in their mind, this internal conversation. If I do something that conflicts with my values, I don't care what you have done to trigger me. If I do something that conflicts with my values, I am creating more trauma in my life.
fact, I'm probably creating more trauma than what you even did or said. Like what I did, the lie or the going back at you, like, cause I'm not that type of person who like likes to. If somebody say something to me out of pocket, I'm not that type of person who like to go back at you viciously. Like that ain't how I rock. Like I don't see the point of that. Like, oh, you hurt me, so let me hurt you back. Like the tick for tat in relationships, I'm not that person. Like I don't see how that benefits me or them, especially not if you're telling somebody you love them or you like them or you're trying to date them or you are dating them or you're married to them. Like I never understand, especially like females, like they don't be understanding like the things they be saying to the dudes that they claim that they love. And it's like, how can you tell this person you love them, but be so vicious with your tongue to them? Like,
We got issues. I can love you, and then you trigger me. And I grew up with a substance addicted person in my family. Heroin was their drug of choice. Do you think that they loved us? Absolutely. Do you think that we could leave them in the house with the house unlocked? Absolutely not. Why? Because they steal stuff. They steal stuff. Didn't mean they didn't love us. It means that when you are triggered, your trauma is your addiction. You will pull whatever drugs of choice you have practiced.
Well,
Behavioral coping mechanisms are the drugs of choice. Substances are the drugs of choice too, but those are in addition to the behavioral. We don't think of it that way, that I am using a drug. When you go into defense mode, you are using your preferred drug of choice. If you're a fighter and you fight folks that look at you sideways, that's your drug of choice. And when you are triggered, if you don't have another way of processing it, you go for what you know. You go to your drug of choice. But oftentimes, your drug of choice traumatizes you. When he was on substances, my friend Lil Bit, cocaine, crack was her drug of choice. When she reached for that, do you think that was when I was going to have a logical conversation about her spiritual development and growth and healing?
No, for sure. No, none of that.
Makes us think that we're going to talk to somebody who has just taken a hit of their best drug of choice. Now we want to talk logic. If you get triggered and you pull your drug of choice, how logical do you get? You get dysfunctional. You start doing things that are not in your own personal best interest.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll lash out. So that's why I'm glad, like I said, from the one conversation we've had so far, and then now this one, like just being able to break down, slow down, because I'm quick with it. And I'm fast on my feet and I think really quick. And I used to respond just as fast. I had no filter how I felt or what I had to say. I would just hit you with it. But now I am able to slow down, breathe, bring it back.
Oh, you mean
I
you are actually taking control of your life and not giving permission for your emotions to take control of your life? Is that what you mean?
Right, yeah. I want to be. I want to run my life. I don't want my emotions. I don't want to be on autopilot.
So what you're saying is you think your value system says that I should be in charge of myself from a logical, clear-headed position, and it should align with the things that I actually say I believe. I should actually live the way I believe. If I believe I should treat people with respect and love, I should figure out how to live that. And I can see my growth because I can see myself coming more back into ownership of my life. You and I have talked about this. Part of this is owning your life. Now, if you want the privilege of owning your life, you also have the responsibility of actually owning your life. This is teaching you the how. How? Because when I get triggered, I want to go pull for that. Do I have something else to pull from? Most people, they don't. This is if you can recognize you're being triggered, your mind, we want your mind to start saying, if I go there, I'm going to damage myself. I got another set of alternatives for how to process this. What do I do? What do I do? I'm getting ready to go there. Step one. Oh, whew. Okay, I got my lifeline. Okay. Step one. What just happened? What is happening? What are the facts? How am I feeling? Okay. What are my values and my expectations? And then this goes into the next step, and we'll bring this kind of to a rapid. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll talk about this in pieces and go more in depth into each section. We've spent a lot of time on the step one and step two. But as you do that, step two also says, now that I know where the conflict is, what are my losses? Count the cost. We don't do this in processing. What did I lose? In that situation, what did you lose? And you want to sit and wrestle with that. I lost feeling good. I lost feeling good about myself and this relationship. I lost peace of mind.
I lost time.
I lost time that I could be spending on something else more enjoyable. I lost time at work because I was supposed to be working and I'm talking to you. I lost time working on a project that I was supposed to be working on, and this disrupted me. What are your actual losses? And you sit and you go through that, and then some of it is, I lost respect for you.
Yes, for sure.
I lost respect for myself because you said something that hit me, and now I feel a little insecure. I lost some respect I lost some confidence in myself. I lost whatever the losses are.
In that conversation as long as I did.
I lost some respect for myself.
Yeah.
Self. We got caught up again. Self. No judgment. No judgment. No
The back.
judgment. We're looking at facts. What are my losses? And then the next part of this, how did I respond? You message me. I fired back a fiery message on you. That's how I responded. What else did you do? I defended myself.
Yeah,
What else?
a little bit.
I told you why you were wrong. That's what I did. What else did you do? I got silent. I disconnected. I deleted the message. I turned my phone off. I turned my ringer off. I sat and cried afterwards. Or I thought about crying, but I didn't because, I didn't want to. Or whatever. What did you do? And then we say, that's step 2. We've gotten that piece of it. We got that box now. And then we would stop. And you'd go through. And at our meeting time, you'd go through and you'd read that. And then at the end of that, we do that same thing. What you feeling now? What are the emotions that brings up? Because each layer of this stuff, we dig in. We're trying to get them roots out. What else are you feeling? Still feeling frustrated? Okay, cool. Anything else you feel? Any other emotions from the first time? Anything else that you're feeling now? No? And then I do that. You know what? I'm feeling disappointed. That's another emotion that this triggered for me. I've been in that situation. You say you ain't supposed to get into it. With this person especially, it always ends up bad. And here I am again. I'm disappointed, self. If I'm being honest, I'm disappointed. Mm-hmm. And we did it. And then we say, let you process, let that marinate. And then what we do is, just like we did this and identified what we did, we take those situations. We take the what did I do? Because now I got a different situation. I now know, right now, at the end of this step, I know what you did to conflict with my values. I know what you did. I know what you did. I just spelled it out. You said this, which made me believe that you don't respect this boundary, that you think I own your time. You said you're going to talk to me now. And my value system says you don't dictate my schedule and my energy that I have to give to you. You already know the conflict, but the last part of this was, what did I do? And now what we do is we take those behaviors that you did and we put them on a list. Self, now let's get personal. Now I know what you did to me that created some trauma. Let me be honest, because this is about balance. If we're being totally honest, what did I do? I responded and cussed you out. And then I talked about that.
I kept going with the conversation. I defended myself unnecessarily. I didn't just let the person have their feelings.
Bullet point. You list what you did, and then we do the same process all over again. Did what I do conflict with any of my values?
All of that did.
And then we call those at words. I am not obligated to defend my position or my boundaries of my time to anyone. But you did. I don't owe anyone an explanation, but you did. And you began to now look and see, did I conflict my values in any way? And when I conflicted with my values, what were my losses? My loss was I prolonged this argument, and I was a little bit twisted. By the end of this, I was totally sidetracked. I forgot what I was supposed to be doing. I forgot to go take care of this appointment because I was dealing with you. I forgot to do some other stuff that was more productive. I did. What were your losses? And then we sit back, you go through that same process again. These are the things I did that created trauma in my life, and here are the losses that I created for my life. Because if we're going to be honest, in our interactions with people in life, each of us sometimes plays a part in the damage that we both walk away from this situation with. Sometimes one-sided, but more often in our interpersonal relationships with both people
play a very vital role. If one person is not able to shut it down, if it goes back and forth, once after one or two,
feels my ego, and we got a big bonfire going on right now.
For sure.
Isn't that usually how it happens? Now, there are situations where there are perpetrators and you've done nothing wrong. I didn't say nothing to you, and you came at me sideways, cussed me out. I didn't say nothing. I didn't do nothing that violated my values. I looked at you. I asked you to stop. You chose not to. You created the trauma. I didn't create no trauma in my life. There are situations like that, but in this scenario, we can see this person checked off a whole long list of violations. Lots of every one of them flags on the play was valid. There was a violation, but then the other referee, flag on the other side too, flag on the other side too, and then the final part of this process, which becomes the magic, is now I need you to stop, and I want you to go back, and I want you to look at this. What happened? I want you to look at the emotions for you that were your trigger points. Learn something from that if you can. I want you to look and see where the other person violated and created trauma for you. And I want you to look at the part that you played in the trauma in your life. Now I want you to sit down, get your pen in whatever way you need to, write a song, write a poem, write a letter to yourself. Now tell me about this scenario from this side. Now that we've talked through that, I want you to, this is the Dear Self letter. Now that we have unpacked both sides of this, now I want you to talk to you. Tell me what your Dear Self letter would look like now.
All right, this second.
Right this second. We've thought through these things. Self.
I actually got to get off because I really got to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry I had to end it early, but I really got to go to the bathroom.
The process in your time this week until we gather together again. I want you to go through that and see if in these next couple of days you can come up with now that I've processed both sides of these, now what do I say to myself? How do I now go back and look at this situation and realign this experience for myself? Can I get some growth and healing out of this? Can I see where my triggers are? Can I see how I can now understand myself differently and figure out the formula for putting the words and the thoughts together? What order should I think through things if I really want resolution? And I want you to see if you can come up with that. This is now my letter to myself. If I was speaking to myself in my most loving voice, not the punishing voice, not the judgmental voice, if I had an honest, loving conversation with myself. And if you have to pretend like you're talking to somebody else, do it, because sometimes we have a hard time showing love to ourselves. If you were talking to someone that was in this scenario and you wanted to give them the most loving advice, guidance, reflection, what would you say? And I want you to say that to yourself. Got it?
Okay, I got it.
That's your homework. Thank you for letting me share this, and we'll be talking more and going a little bit more in depth. And you can reach out to me. You know how to reach out to me throughout the week. But thank you for sharing this with me and for letting me share this with you.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.